Hey everybody, it's me again. Thank you for clicking on this video. Welcome back to my channel where I review, critique, and summarize scary children's books. Today I will be your guide to Zen Ghosts. This is a picture book written and illustrated by Jon J Muth. This is a Halloween-themed entry into Jon J Muth's Zen picture book series that includes Zen shorts, Zen ties, and Zen socks. In this video, I will summarize the book for you, I will talk about the story content and give that a bit of a review, and as always, I am going to talk about any horror elements at play here. So, Jon J Muth's Zen series follows three children, Michael, Carl, and Addie, who make friends with a giant panda named Stillwater. Stillwater is a very enlightened figure, and throughout the series, he tells the children stories that have to do with Zen Buddhism. So what Muth presents with these books is essentially a retelling of certain Zen stories that are contained within a larger story, that of Stillwater and the children. These are stories within stories. And like I've mentioned, Zen Ghosts is a Halloween entry into this series. In this book, Stillwater the panda asks the three children if they would like to come meet him after they are done trick-or-treating, after they have all their candy. The children say yes, and after they are done going door to door collecting their candy, they go to meet Stillwater, who introduces them to a mysterious storyteller. The storyteller asks the children and Stillwater to sit down and begins to tell them a very philosophical and spooky ghost story having to do with a young woman who falls in love, only to find out that her father is trying to separate her and her true love and stop them from getting married. But she can't envision her life without this person, so she actually decides to run away with him and begin a life with him somewhere far from the place that they were born. And they do spend many, many very happy years together and have children and everything like that, but one day they decide that they do miss the place that they were born and decide to travel back, even if it means seeing her father. But when the woman's husband goes to see her father, the father acts very surprised upon hearing the story that they had run away together. He says that it's impossible that his daughter had run away all those years ago, because really she's actually been living with him all this time. So Zen Ghosts came out in 2010 and was published by Scholastic Press. And there are things that I really like about this book, and at the same time things that I really don't like about it. So I am excited to talk about it. I'll start with what I think Muth does pretty well in this book, and number one would be the illustrations. The illustrations here are absolutely lovely. The atmosphere of the book is very friendly, the images are very colorful and inviting and pleasant to look at. Even during the spookier parts of the story, there is a sense of wonder that is conveyed through the images instead of a sense of horror or a sense of scariness. These end papers, for example, are absolutely gorgeous. I love the contrast between this night Halloween scene and this evening scene that's on the dust jacket flap here. The image on the cover is presented in a full bleed illustration, meaning that it stretches to all four corners of the page. The hardcover of the book is the same image, but bordered in these really pleasant fall colors. I think there's something so visually pleasing and safe feeling about an image that is bordered in this way. It makes you really think of a classic storybook. Inside the book, we get these lovely watercolor and ink illustrations. I particularly love this double-page spread of all of the kids going trick-or-treating on Halloween. If you look closely at this image, there are hints of this magical realism that permeates throughout the whole story. So, for example, we get this girl dressed as a witch who is up in the trees actually flying, and we get these little jack-o'-lantern guys that are running around. It contributes to the real sense of whimsy and the sense of playfulness that Muth has with this universe that he's created. When Stillwater's storyteller friend tells the ghost story to the children, he actually draws the ghost story out with his calligraphy brush. So we do get the story within a story rendered in these beautiful black and white illustrations that are actually quite different from the illustrations we've seen so far in the book. It gives you that sense that this is a different story being told within this bigger, larger story. I think it's gorgeous with these different shades of gray and the colors in her dress all sort of bleeding together. It's really magical. My other like for this book has to do with the book's concept. So I really like the idea of sharing ideas of Zen Buddhism with readers through the picture book format. I like picture books like this that share cultural knowledge and philosophical knowledge. The ghost story itself is pretty creepy, but it's more mysterious than it is really scary. The author's note at the back of the book locates the ghost story as a koan, which is a statement or anecdote that often is paradoxical and is designed to make you answer answer a question using only your intuition. It's supposed to test the limits of logical thinking. But it's a pretty bare bones description of something that is actually really complex in practice, and I did have to do a lot of reading about it as it was a totally new concept to me when I first read this book. I'll leave links to some of the articles that I was reading down in the description below if anyone's interested. It prompted me to learn something new that I had never read about or learned about before. And I'm very much pro philosophical thought in books for children. I think this book is really cool in that regard. But unfortunately, my dislikes for this book were actually so strongly present in the content of the story that it did complicate my enjoyment of the book quite a bit. Firstly, the writing here did not work for me at all. I found the dialogue to feel really clunky. I found the descriptions to be quite unclear. I did actually end up having to flip back through the book because I thought that I missed something. As I was reading it, I was actually sort of involuntarily formulating ways in which I felt that this book could be better presented textually. For example, there was one part that I thought, oh my god, this would be so cool if there was a break here and then a page turn. Rhythmically, it would really work in that part, but unfortunately this moment was just stuck inside this wall of text. Page turns are really important to the rhythm and the storytelling of picture books. I mean, that's why I named my channel what I did, and unfortunately I felt that this book really lacked a good narrative cadence. So although I do enjoy the story and the concept here, I have to say that the execution of it really didn't work for me. I also want to mention the fact that, like I said before, this is a book that is an entry into a picture book series. And nowhere on the cover or nowhere clearly inside the book does it say that this book is an entry into a series. And I think that lack of context is a real problem. I think people could just pick this book up and think that it was a standalone book and open it and start reading it and be really perplexed. There's no reintroduction to Stillwater in the book, and there's no reintroduction to the kids. The book just drops you into its world, which wouldn't be a problem if the reader was very clear on the fact that this book was part of a series. I know that I picked up this book thinking that it was a standalone book, and it wasn't, and I was really confused when I started reading. So the book could benefit from a little bit of context in that regard. When it comes to the horror elements in this book, this is a Halloween entry into the series, so it does have an air of spookiness about it. Stillwater leads the children through a misty part of the forest that they've never been to before. There are ghosts flitting in and out of the trees. Stillwater's house is lit by the flame of a single candle. There is an atmosphere of spookiness. The ghost story itself manages to be spooky but non-threatening at the same time. The implications of the story are pretty creepy, but the way it's presented, it seems very safe, and it's far more about the curiosity that the story evokes in the listener than it is about being scared. And I have to say that as a reader who really enjoys ghost stories, I do think that this ghost story will stick with me. I thought about it for quite a long time afterwards, so I really did enjoy the ghost story just as a general story. So overall, I would say that this is a very, very gentle Halloween book. There are pretty much no scares here. It's far more about the spooky atmosphere and about the curiosity of Halloween and portraying this ghost story and sharing this knowledge. So guys, I would recommend you pick up this book if you are looking for a Halloween book that contains something a little bit more thought-provoking, and if you like these gorgeous illustrations. But do keep in mind that the writing might not live up to its potential, and also keep in mind that you will probably have to read the first few books in this series with your children. I'll leave the link to the Goodreads page for this series down below. Alright guys, so that is it for my review today. Thank you so much for watching as always. I do have to say that I think this is a very interesting book, and it really was nice to get the chance to read about Zen Buddhism through a picture book. If you like the video, go ahead and give it a like, and leave me a comment down below and let me know what you think of this book if you've read it, or let me know what you think about these kinds of books that introduce these really thought-provoking ideas to kids. Do kids in your life enjoy reading them? Do you enjoy reading them as an adult, much like I do? If you want to see more of me on here, go ahead and click subscribe, and you can follow me on various social medias as well. The links are in the description below. Alright guys, thanks again so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Bye!